In today's video, I'm going to be reading a chapter from Proverbs. We'll see if I read the whole thing. Who knows? But I've just been flipping through that recently whenever I have the time to sit down. And I really haven't put a lot of effort into reading Proverbs, and I am kind of just jumping around. But I think it's okay to just jump around through Proverbs. I don't think you have to start at chapter 1 and read it that way. Although, obviously, you could. But today I'm going to read chapter 23, and already I skimmed through about half of it, and it's very interesting and very true and applicable to any age. And it's interesting, the title, sometimes versions of the Bible, they'll like put their own titles and things. This chapter they title Live a Disciplined Life, but I would title this like Watch Out for Rich People. And so I'm going to read. When thou sittest to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before thee, and put a knife to thy throat, if thou be a man given to appetite. Be not desirous of his dainties, for they are deceitful meat. So this is very interesting already, telling you to be very cautious, especially if you have an appetite. It's kind of interesting. I imagine, because if you see yourself eating too much food, maybe the king decides that he doesn't like that and has you sent to the dungeon, or who knows. But yeah, I think this is really interesting and really is not painting fancy people with money and power in a good light, which is interesting because a lot of times in the Bible, Old Testament, people had this general idea of, oh, if you have all this stuff, God must love you. But this is interesting advice here. So verse 4, labor not to be rich, seize from thine own wisdom. Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings, they fly away as an eagle toward heaven. Eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats. And yeah, so I think that's the way, at least that I interpret this. And it reminds me of, in real life, you shouldn't be flattered by people that have money. Just because somebody has money doesn't mean that you should view them on a pedestal in any way. People really are very much, enchanted, enamored by people that have money. And a lot of times those types of people are the grossest. They're the worst. And you probably don't want to be eating the same food that they eat. Almost, I think that this might even be getting at a spiritual component of food too. It's a big deal in the Bible to not eat food sacrificed to idols. And you probably don't even want to eat with evil people. They talk about here the evil eye. What did it say? Eat not the bread of him that hath an evil eye. Somebody could be so evil aligned that you shouldn't eat with them, even. I mean, that's kind of interesting because the whole Jews tend to feel that way oftentimes about certain non-Jewish people. I mean, maybe against all non-Jews, I don't know. But I think that there is some truth to that. I think if somebody really is truly disgusting, you shouldn't sit down and eat with them. So let's keep reading. Verse 7, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. And I'm sure that you could imagine these scenarios where fancy people might offer you things, but you feel like at the same time they're looking down on you heavily. And I don't know. It's definitely something. Sometimes you feel like super rich people are only offering you things out of like pity, or they're looking down on you, and like they're only offering you to eat out of, not because they really want to at all. They just have ulterior motives, I guess, or I don't know exactly, but I agree with that. That's just something that I've felt before, that people are offering you something but you can feel like, I don't think you even like me. Why are you? Or you just say no because you feel like that person doesn't even really like you. Verse 9. Oh wait, verse 8. It's interesting. The morsel which thou hast eaten shalt thou vomit up, and lose thy sweet words. Speak not in the ears of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of thy words. Remove not the old landmark, and enter not into the fields of the fatherless. So that's really interesting advice. Remove not the old landmark, and to enter not into the fields of the fatherless. That's in support of tradition. And yeah, it's really interesting. The Bible, a lot of times after a big event, they would set a bunch of stones together and say, like, never do that in remembrance. And a lot of times they would reference, like, and this place is still there today, at least when the Bible was written. And I think I'll just stop here today. Let me know if you have any experiences with eating with evil people. Maybe you got sick afterwards, being invited to some fancy party. That actually comes to mind. That my mother-in-law would get invited to this company dinner, and it was like a fancy schmancy event, and there was drinking involved, but it was almost like they were making the drinks extra strong, or like maybe even somebody put weird things in the drink that were going to make people sick. I'm not saying like full-on roofie, but things where people get way more messed up than they normally would. And I don't know, I wasn't there to see the alcohol consumption, but it just reminded me of that story where maybe somebody evil would mess with the drinks. They're actually, I think, further down, verse 20 talks about, be not among wine bibbers. Is that how you pronounce that? Among riotous eaters of flesh. Oh man, I was just watching Naked and Afraid, and there were these two Martins, and they were, man, it's so cheesy, like getting so amped up, and like the New Zealand people that do the weird, is it haka? The dance? Stuff like that's so awkward to me, but I don't know. That's just what I thought of, the rioter, eaters of flesh. People that are just like extravagant in their riotousness. I don't know, hooting and hollering. That's just what that reminded me of. Is that it? Oh, I mean, there was another guy on Naked and Afraid too that had really bizarre vibes. He had like very dark vibes, and he killed a fish by just like gnawing behind the head with his teeth and just ripping it out. Do you know people like that? Kind of like Ozzy Osbourne, like would bite creatures' heads off. That's just what this stuff is reminding me of. Don't associate with those types of people. All right, well, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. God bless everyone.